Hello, everyone. We're a little late. Sorry about that, but we are live because there's a lot to talk about. Critics' Choice Awards, Emmy winners, which happened last night. PGA, DGA nominations. We missed those last week, so we're going to touch on those, as well as the BAFTA nominations are this upcoming Thursday. So we are going to be doing some quick predictions for what we think is going to be happening there. Hello to everyone joining us. Thank you so much. Got a lot to be talking about. Let's begin with the Critics' Choice Awards. I'll let you kick it off, Anthony. What did this were about? I think 2 or 3 days ago. What did you think of the ceremony? The winners add a little change to the race.
It's funny because so many of the winners either were honored at the Golden Globes or the Emmy Awards, and so it's fun differentiating. You have to think of like the dresses, like the attire, the fashion to separate them in your mind. I think that the Critics' Choice more or less fell in line with what we were expecting of this voting body, especially now seeing their nominations. Things like how, they gave Barbie more nominations than any film this year and any film in their history. So that kind of gives us a sense of where their sensibilities lie. And that proved to be correct because Oppenheimer, I believe, won the most. Barbie won, I think, a handsome total, 6 awards. And I think Oppenheimer maybe had 8. So I think it's becoming clear that those seem to be the 2 films that everybody's kind of rallying behind. And usually you get it down to like 2 or 3. You have your La La Land, your Moonlights, you have your, very rare is it a year like 2015 where you genuinely had 4 films in contention for that top spot. Usually it's 2 or 3. And I think I'm interested to see if a third one can emerge, but I'm not so sure it's going to happen. I think that Barbie and Oppenheimer are going to, as we'll talk about, really challenge once again at SAG. And I think there is really the only last chance for something to stop Oppenheimer in its way to Oscar glory. I still think it's a very heavy favorite, and its win at Critics' Choice for Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Supporting Actor, not Best Actor, which is a fun conversation. But I think its wins elsewhere mean that it's doing what we expect it to do.
It is. Let's take a look at our winners here. We can switch that up and then go here. Okay. So let's a few of these. I think we can just breeze through. Best Picture went to Oppenheimer. I think everyone pretty much agrees that's going to be sweeping pretty much the entire season. Can zoom in a little. And then Best Actor. Here we go. We can start with this conversation. Paul Giamatti wins over Cillian Murphy. I think we were talking about this when we did our Best Actor breakdown. I think people still had Bradley Cooper as a lot like the front runner for a lot of people, but I think we both saw Paul Giamatti as a bigger contender because I think his film is much more respected, and I think he's got a little bit of that veteran narrative to him as well. He's very likable. He can put on a charm offensive. I still think personally that Cillian is going to win BAFTA and SAG and then the Oscar, but I think it's much more of a race just because he gave a great speech too, which we saw Brendan Fraser won the Critics' Choice, gave a great speech, and then ended up winning at SAG and then the Oscar. So that could definitely happen. I just worry about with SAG, Oppenheimer made $1 billion, whereas Holdovers is it's well seen, but it's smaller. I don't think it's as seen as Oppenheimer, not nearly as huge.
That's what I think Oppenheimer has going for it at SAG because it is the most widely seen film. But we should note that out of this category, Jeffrey Wright, besides Paul Giamatti, is the only original character among these nominees. All the other people are playing real life people, and I think that could be what distinguishes Paul Giamatti. It's an original character. He creates this really fun, just interesting human being that you just feel like you haven't seen this type of character in a movie before. And I think that is what's helping him. And he has the overdue narrative that Bradley Cooper, people were saying, had to his campaign. So he kind of has everything that you would want. I think the question is, again, just can it surmount the campaign of Oppenheimer? That's really the only thing it has really to struggle with is, can it take down Cillian Murphy on his first nomination? So that should be noted.
I think this is very interesting to what we saw with like Michelle Yeoh being carried along with Everything Everywhere Last Year. I think Cillian Murphy very well may just be carried along with Oppenheimer and its big sweep this year. So I think it looks. I'm still leaning Cillian Murphy, but we'll have to see. This definitely makes it a two-horse race here. I think for sure. I don't think Bradley has much of a shot at all. And we'll get to this in a second, BAFTA. But I agree with the way that the nominations work there. Giamatti could miss BAFTA, and SAG is definitely what's going to be more interesting. This isn't also true. Giamatti has, I think, once. I don't know if it's 4 times. I don't know the exact number, but he has won a lot. I think for ensemble mostly, but they do really like him. I think he's got a narrative, kind of like with Brendan Fraser last year. I think he has more of like a narrative that might appeal to actors than Cillian Murphy. I think it's more of like finally paid his dues and worked his way as a character actor up to this point, that I think actors would very much enjoy. Hello. Now onto the other big acting win of the night, or surprise, kind of, I guess. We've got Emma Stone for Best Actress. I don't know where Antonia went. We'll have to figure that out in a second. Technical issues while live, I guess. But Best Actress, Emma Stone, beating out who I think most people thought was going to win here, Lily Gladstone, because she's just kind of she's won the most critic awards so far this season. Why am I freezing? God, the Wi-Fi is not great today, guys. But I think BAFTA, we'll touch on the BAFTAs in a second. But I think BAFTA will probably go to Emma. And I agree. I think SAG and Oscar will go to Lily because I think SAG, kind of like we were talking about with what's his name? I'm forgetting his name all of a sudden. Paul Giamatti. I think the actors appreciate a narrative. Anthony back disappeared for a second. We're talking about Best Actress.
I don't know what was going on there. I apologize. As I was trying to talk about Paul Giamatti and Cillian Murphy, the whole internet was coming down.
Bradley Cooper took down your Wi-Fi.
Very likely. It's very possible. Yeah. What do you think of this? Because I mean, we always talked about that Emma Stone could be much more likely at SAG, and so I mean, is there
maybe?
I
still think Gladstone takes SAG because I think SAG loves a narrative, and I think when you look at both of them, I think Gladstone has a much better narrative than Stone. I think BAFTA will enjoy Poor Things more so than even the Academy probably will, and definitely more than SAG, that voting body did. So I think Emma could win there, but I think SAG will be more important than BAFTA, and I think the Oscar will still probably go to Lily. But this is the acting race I'm the least confident about now. I think this is the closest, whereas I'm still kind of confident in Cillian. It could be Giamatti. But I'm not. I mean, because BAFTA could very well just end up going to Sandra Hüller. I think that's very possible as well, and that couldn't really, which very deserved. My favorite female leading performance of the year, probably performance in general. But that wouldn't really give us any indications of where they're leaning, Gladstone or Stone.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I do think it's interesting though that we've kind of distilled the acting races down to either one person with the supporting categories or two people when it comes to the lead acting. Yeah, I'm really interested to see if this is where, like The Favorite, Poor Things is honored for its lead performance, or this is where Killers the Flower. Regardless, I do think that Poor Things and Killers the Flower Moon are both fighting for this to be their one win.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting, and not rarely does it happen this way. Or it's where you could argue, oh, this is where we honor Poor Things. Well, this is also the only place that we're really going to honor Killers the Flower Moon. So it's then which performer do they like, who's more deserving, and then which film
do they like more.
So I'm really interested to see what SAG happens, because if SAG anoints Lily Gladstone, a performer that they're not as familiar with, I think that does speak to something, especially speaking to how large the voting body is for SAG.
Yeah, I think whoever wins SAG will probably end up winning the Oscar. I think that's, especially in this category, going to be the most telling precursor. Right now, I would lean Gladstone, but it's definitely a race. And we can speed through these. Robert Downey Jr. is sweeping supporting actor. I don't think anyone else is really
another great speech.
Take it over from him. He's given good speeches. He's on the charm offensive. It's going to be pretty much impossible to take him or Divine Joy Randolph down for the holdovers.
Yeah,
probably the cleanest sweep we'll have the entire season.
Once she gets SAG, it's over.
Yeah. And do you think she would win at BAFTA?
I mean, it seems possible.
but
Well, I mean,
kind of.
I think that there seems to be quite like she literally has not lost a single thing this
Mhm.
entire season. So it would seem odd that at the last second at BAFTA she would miss out. I wouldn't discount it. I think it's possible, and everybody will then have a second worry, and then we'll be like, no, it's Divine Joy Randolph. But I mean, I feel like it's a fool's errand to discount her at this point.
Yeah.
You just got to
The only
believe that.
person
Yeah,
who could beat her at BAFTA, I think, would be Emily Blunt, and I don't think that's gonna happen. So I think
I
she'll
think
probably
Emily
just
Blunt
lose to
is firmly in that number 2 position, but that doesn't mean she's going to take it away from Divine Joy Randolph. The same way that I think Scarlett Johansson and Jojo Rabbit was a very clear number 2 that year, but it didn't mean that there was any threat of her taking it away from Laura Dern.
Yeah. Hello, Jordan. Thank you once again for the super chat. We appreciate it very much so.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm not a huge fan of the RDJ sweep as well, but it's going to happen. It's
Sorry.
a divided house, as you can see, as he should. So yeah, not an undeserving win. I just have preferences. I prefer most of the other performances, but it's still a good win.
Do you?
Best young
I'm
actor.
interested. Do you?
Yeah.
Would you vote for Divine Joy Randolph out of those people in contention?
Out of these ones, I would vote.
Or are you Julianne Moore?
I'd vote for Julianne Moore. Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't see her. I'd definitely vote. She might be her and Rachel McAdams are up there for my favorite overall, and Claire Foy overall supporting actress performances of the year.
It's a shame that the Academy isn't made up of just Renee Rapp, because then Rachel McAdams would win this category hands down.
She would. She does. I think Renee Rapp is probably in SAG, so she'll have a vote. Speaking of SAG, many of my SAG friends love Giamatti. He could win SAG, Murphy, BAFTA, and one of them Oscar. I think that's definitely what would make the race most interesting, because I think Murphy is definitely winning at BAFTA, and SAG is what's going to decide. Because if Giamatti wins SAG, I think I might have to say he's going to win the Oscar.
Especially because I'm starting to think that's likely, because Oppenheimer is going to win Best Ensemble, and at the Oscars win Best Picture, and it's going to win Best Director. And then I think at that point you're thinking, all right, it has to win an acting award. And I do think Downey is the clear favorite over Cillian Murphy because of what he represents. It's not only giving it to an actor of the ensemble, but you're giving it to an actor who has worked. I mean, he was on Ally McBeal. Like he was all over this town and this industry, and everybody loves him. That like he's a very worthy recipient to honor the ensemble of Oppenheimer. And at that point,
In and Out.
Yeah. And at that point, I think that you feel, all right, there are other movies I saw and other movies I love. And that's where then Giamatti comes in, having that, been working forever career narrative, and he delivers an original character in a movie that I do think is making people cry. We always talk about the importance of making people cry. It's how The King's Speech wins over Social Network. It's how I think Moonlight ultimately beat La La Land. I do think people were more emotionally moved by that film and impacted. And so The Holdovers, I think, is the one that's making them cry. That and Barbie, which I think is why Barbie is so strong.
And his character's journey is much more, I think, emotional than Oppenheimer's journey, which is it's a journey, but it's depressing.
It's less tragic, despite it still having a lot of truth to it. And so it's the type of character that you can imagine being an Oscar-winning role. And so I think that helps him, especially because Oppenheimer is taken care of. And The Holdovers, Divine Joy Randolph probably, but besides that, I could see a 3 billboards type scenario where it wins 2 Oscars only, and that be for lead acting and supporting acting, and then that's it.
Yeah, I could see that too, because I'm still not sure about it in screenplay.
Yeah.
And I do agree, if anyone in actors overdo it, would definitely be Giamatti over Cooper. I don't know how much overdoeness always plays a factor. I think it's a factor, but I don't think it's like going to single-handedly give someone the Oscar. But I think it definitely helps him more than any of the other nominees.
I think it depends on what the competition is. Like when Brad Pitt is overdue for acting and he's up against Anthony Hopkins and Tom Hanks and Al Pacino and Joe Pesci, it's like, all right, all these guys have Oscars. We can give it to Brad Pitt. It depends on the year. But I do think that, to Jordan's point as well, the fact that SAG voters are already likely to be voting for Oppenheimer twice out of the real, all due respect to the stunt category, they have 5 categories they get to vote for, and they've already voting for Oppenheimer twice. I do think they might spread the love then and give it to Giamatti and the holdovers. And that's why Actress is so fun, because it really has nothing to do with these other two movies. But also, listen, last year we saw them go 4 categories for everything.
That's
everywhere.
true.
So if they love the movie, they may just go Cillian Murphy. But I do think that Holdovers, I think, is a really strong film. I would probably put it in Best Picture lineup, probably 3rd. I do think it has a very
I'd have
strong
it in 2nd.
heart. Really?
I think it's stronger than Barbie at this point. Yeah. Barbie's doing a great job getting nominations. It's not doing a great job getting wins, though.
It has the craft, and I think it also is a front runner for screenplay, which I think helps.
I'm not completely sure about that.
That's what I would say.
I think that screenplay category will be very telling.
Where do you have Holdovers? Because I'm debating it. I think I have it in 3rd, behind Past Lives and Anatomy of a Fall, which I think might
for original
be
screenplay.
rising for original screenplay. But Barbie,
I think, have it in 3rd too.
All right, but then Barbie, I would probably say is. I think Barbie has a better chance than American Fiction, and I do think Oppenheimer's taken care of. So I do think Barbie. I currently have Barbie as number 1 and adapted, because I think they're going to want to give it something. There. So I just, in my mind, I think Anatomy of a Fall will unfortunately not win Best International Feature, but I think that film, because it's it's not an American it's not an American film, I think that hurts it a little bit, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But just tonally, certain things, it's not going to play to the entire Academy. It's female focused too, which unfortunately does hurt you. Just look at Greta Gerwig's last 2 films. But anyway, I just think Barbie, it will win a screenplay. It'll win definitely original song. The question is what song. We thought we knew.
I think it's still Billy, but yeah. we'll get to that in a second.
And it'll win 2 crafts. So Barbie is going to, in my mind, likely win 4 Oscars. So
Black Panther. I think it's a Black Panther, to be honest. I think it's it's going to win some crafts, and I don't know if it wins screenplay. If I have it at number 1 in screenplay, then I would think it's stronger in picture. But right now, I'm just not.
It's Black Panther, but Black Panther, it doesn't have the thing that hurt Black Panther to win, which is
it's stronger above
studios. It doesn't have that logo over it. I'm very interested to see. It's different.
It is, but there's still a little
the 18th movie with the Barbie logo on it, which
I think Black Panther kind of stood alone. Movie.
Yeah, but I genuinely believe there were some people that would not, the same way that they wouldn't vote for Roma because of Netflix. There were some people that were not going to vote for that for Best Picture because of Marvel. They just were not going to do it, and so maybe that'll happen with Barbie. I think Barbie has a little bit more respect than Black Panther.
Yeah, and I do just want to point out, I hope Andrew Scott wins the BAFTA. My favorite performance, lead actor performance of the year. He's incredible. Incredible. And we have a few others. Let's see. Hey, Steven. Just stopping by to send support. I think the Critics' Choice was the best of the awards show. Chelsea Handler, the host, funniest. Her stopping the show to let Greta and Margot give a speech was great. I don't think it was planned, but I don't know. We'll see.
That didn't seem.
I don't think it was, but it seemed.
That was great. I mean, I love Chelsea Handler.
And she did a great job hosting the show. I think so did we'll talk about the Emmys in a second. Anthony Anderson. I think that was also a great show. I think the Oscars should be taking notes with both of those hosting jobs. But yeah, she had some funny jokes, for sure. And she took a shot at
and also she used to date. So this just proves do not date comedians because they'll remember.
They will.
Yeah, I love Chelsea Handler. She's done it 2 years in a row, knocked it out of the park both times. Again, I think you've got to know the room. And so I know it's hard for somebody like Joe Coy, who doesn't know the room that well, doesn't know the people that well. It's hard. But I think the Emmys are a great cue because they were all about honoring the legacy of the art form, of the medium, and like having the reunions. And there was just something like the Christina Applegate moment. Like that's what you do. You remind people why they love being in that room and why we like to turn on to try and be a fly on the wall in that room. That's what I think you got to do with award shows.
And she really didn't bash any of the movies. I just don't like when people bash the movies as hosts. That's just not what the whole show is for. So
it's so odd because it seems as if sometimes they feel like they're writing jokes for like the people
who don't watch the Oscars.
Yeah, it's like the ABC, they're always trying to get the people who don't like the Oscars to try and watch the Oscars. It's like, no, cater to the people who actually like these movies and are watching it because they like the Oscars. That it just seems like so trying to seem cool and edgy. It's no.
Yeah, so, I think Jimmy Kimmel did a pretty good job at not doing that last year, so I think he'll probably continue to do that this year.
Yeah.
And yes, we'll get to this in a second, Jordan, when we do our BAFTA nomination predictions. I do think he could miss, but I think I agree. Even if he does miss at BAFTA, that's simply because of the voting process. That I don't think, and it's also a very American film, which could also, I think, hurt with BAFTAs. So I think we'll get to that once we do our actor predictions.
Leonardo DiCaprio got nominated for Don't Look Up from the BAFTAs, so. There's no excuse for it being an American film.
Yeah, I agree. And I do think I've seen some more people coming around to All of Us Strangers, putting Andrew Scott in Best Actor. More people are doing it. I'm sticking with it as well, because I think Leo is weak, and I think that 5th spot is going to be a passion pick, and I think out of all the contenders, I think Andrew Scott's got the most passion. So
I would put more faith in the movie that actually we know is rising, and from a previous Oscar nominee, I would think Barry Keoghan gets in before Andrew Scott gets in, personally. But I don't think either will. I think Saltburn is too divisive, and that character is unsettling in a great way, but still. And I just think All of Us Strangers, just nobody's talking about it. They're talking about another movie that we might get into.
He's doing the campaigning. He's doing the campaigning too.
Listen, Angelina Jolie ain't hosting any screenings of All of Us Strangers. Just saying.
Yeah, but Origin was not involved in any of the variety actors on actors or round tables or any of that, which I think Andrew Scott was involved in all of them.
We'll see.
But yes, we shall see. And it is some interesting discussion about if Giamatti misses BAFTA. I think Mary has the stat for us here. I think Matthew McConaughey would probably be the last person who won the Oscar but didn't get nominated for BAFTA. But that is most. Oh, he wasn't eligible apparently. So yeah, it is interesting. I don't know. We'll have to save that for when we get to BAFTAs. But yeah, and yes, All of Us Strangers. Have you seen All of Us Strangers?
I have seen All of Us Strangers.
Did you like it? I hopefully. Oh no.
Listen, my thing was that
I was also sobbing during it.
I'm not going to spoil it in no way. I'll just say that the character spends a lot of time in this fantasy world that he creates in his head and fantasy scenarios, and I felt like I didn't get enough of his reality to see why he kept creating it spent too much time in the fantasy for me. Like I never got what he's reflecting on. To me, it felt like half a movie. And also there were certain things in the conceit of it that I just felt like, wait a second, is this supposed to be this way or this way? So to me, and then I as you alluded to months ago, the ending then felt like, okay, this was, I don't know, it felt very pointless, felt very meandering in a way that didn't really connect with me. So I apologize. It wasn't my cup of tea.
It's okay. I've seen plenty of other people with that reaction as well. I'm with Steven here. I was sobbing during it, but it reached a certain point where in the film I was just an endless stream of tears. So
maybe that was part of it. I could feel the strings being pulled. It's like I'm not feeling it. But I thought, listen, Claire Foy, do no wrong. I thought she was very lovely. It was very well shot, and I liked Andrew Haig's 45 Years with Charlotte Rampling. So I'm not against him as a filmmaker. This one didn't connect for me.
Totally cool. We've covered all the acting stuff here, I think. Young actor went to Dominic Sessa, very deserved.
The whole trio got nominated from Holdovers. That was nice to see.
They all got a win, yeah, very, very deserving for all of them. Ensemble went to Oppenheimer. Just another case for Oppenheimer being extremely strong. Same with Christopher Nolan, sweeping. Adapted screenplay, this is what I have at number 1 in adapted screenplay. I do have Cord Jefferson winning for American Fiction. It could take a very similar route to, I think, what Get Out did in 2017/18, where it missed the Golden Globe, but then it got in everywhere else and kind of started winning a lot.
It's very possible, especially with the SAG Ensemble nomination, that there seems to be a lot of love across the board from this film. This
is the only place I think that they can realistically vote for it too.
Yeah, that's true. This is the only one where it can win.
Because they'll be giving Barbie tech awards. They'll be giving Oppenheimer plenty of other stuff. Killers, maybe Lily.
It's possible. And it's the anointment of this new talent that's come onto the scene. I think it is very possible. I think it's a very close race among that top 3, and then Killers of the Flower Moon and Poor Things will be below it. But we'll see. I really think that when you have Jodie Foster, Meryl Streep, like you have so many people crediting Greta Gerwig, and there's even a world, I don't know if I believe it, where people are saying Greta Gerwig won't get in for directing. There is so much.
Mhm.
Even if that happens, then I think Greta Gerwig definitely wins screenplay. They're not going to have this happen. There's just so much love for her in a way that I don't see. I feel like we don't see a lot for female filmmakers, any filmmaker. So I think they're gonna. I think that's why.
And you get to award her and
have to
Noah.
be happy with the nomination.
Yeah. And you are being forgiven in the chat. I'm with Stephen.
There you go.
I'm not Robert Downey Jr.'s performance in Oppenheimer a cup of tea either. So
very good.
And yeah, I think the issue with Claire Foy is great performances in all the films she's been in, but unfortunately they all have been awards underperformers. So she needs to be in a big one, I think. But I think she'll still get some nominations this year, as we'll get to. Original screenplay. Speaking of, I think Barbie's been doing very well in this category because it's pretty much nominated in this category everywhere else. And it makes sense. Like you get to award both of them. So
that would have been interesting. I feel that this probably would have won if it was in the same category as American Fiction, given the way they voted for the rest of these awards, and also just the nominations in general. So interesting.
Yeah, I agree with this, Aaron. I will feel nervous about Greta Gerwig until I do hear her name called out, because the director's branch is just so pretentious, not in a bad way, but that's just not the kind of thing that they usually go for. And they have a lot of nice directed films that they are going to, that I think they would be more likely to go for, with Zone of Interest and Anatomy and Poor Things and all of that. So it's going to be a close call, I think. We'll have to see.
It is close. I'm wondering if the director's branch that nominated James Cameron for Avatar, if they're still around in any place, because that's then who would have to show up for this. The first one, when he lost to his ex-wife. No, it's
I think the most recent comparison I think would be Todd Phillips for Joker. But even then, I think that had more of an artsy feel to it.
Since before I've seen it, that I think this is Joker round 2 for Warner Brothers. I think
it's more of Black Panther round 2 personally, which then wouldn't be director. So we'll have our final Oscar nominations soon,
I think it's different because there's no world. The person who you give the most credit for Marvel is not Ryan Coogler, it's Kevin Feige. That's why he was the sole producer of Black Panther. I don't think there's nobody. I don't know. Barbie seems so much Greta Gerwig's vision. Like I think we all can agree to that. It doesn't feel like Mattel made the movie. So I think it's a little bit different.
It is different.
I understand. I understand.
Think Joker's much more artsy than Barbie, so I think that inherently appeals to that branch.
Joker is more dramatic. I don't know. It has the veneer of something that looks artsier, but I think I mean Barbie I think is that setting that aside, because I like both of them a lot. But I think that Barbie, because it's a comedy, it's a female-focused comedy. Yes, I can see your point where people will toss that off. But I think the box office, I don't know. I feel like people understand that this had value. You can't ignore this.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just can't. It's just it's crazy to me that there could be a lineup of 5 and Greta Gerwig not be nominated. I feel like that would be crazy.
But at least it wouldn't be all 5 men. I think if that happened, then Justine Triet would be in that 5. But Greta Gerwig is deserving.
If there's a world, if it was
Alexander Payne instead,
Alexander Payne and Jonathan Glazer, if that happens,
cancel the Oscars. Cancel it. Just no.
Yeah, no.
It's a sad thing that could potentially be reality, but I don't even want to think about it. But yeah, and I do think at all of these places you see that they want to get Greta Gerwig on stage to just honor all that she has done. So it'll be close. It'll be close for sure. Cinematography, once again, I think another Oppenheimer sweep here, with Hoyt van Hoytma, very deserving. Production design, going to Barbie, I agree. Editing, Oppenheimer, once again, agreed. Jennifer Lame, great editing there. Costume design, Barbie, it's going to happen at the Oscars. Interesting here, hair and makeup went to Barbie instead of Maestro. I don't know. I don't think that's going to carry over to like the Oscars or anything, but I do think it's interesting. I think there's probably just their love for Barbie and not.
Didn't Barbie not get on the short list?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're right. Yeah. So it's obviously not. No, I meant Maestro losing isn't going to carry over to the
Yeah.
Oscars.
But just
I
yeah,
think
I
this
think
more
it just
speaks to them just putting Barbie in everything, just down the
yeah.
line. Barbie or Oppenheimer, because Oppenheimer won visual effects, which interesting, because once again, not an option at the Oscars because it wasn't shortlisted. Comedy, Barbie, animated film, Spider-Verse, foreign language, anatomy, song. This is interesting. I'm just Ken. I still think it's easily going to be Billy. This seems like a
Yeah,
Critics' Choice kind of thing to do.
I think what was I made for is first off, it is the emotional climax of the film, and I think, I mean, I don't know. I'm just Ken feels like the year that Happy went up against Let It Go. Like there's the song that's going to win, and then there's the song that maybe is more fun, but it's not going to beat
It's
the
not serious.
ballad. I think this category usually goes to ballads
And What
because they
Was I Made
usually
For
have
is the
more
emotional
emotion.
center of that whole film.
Yeah.
So I think
And the
it's
same way that people love
really
Greta
harsh.
Gerwig and want to award her and honor her any chance, they love Billie Eilish and
And she's
Phineas.
been out there. She's not
Yeah.
like Ryan
You could
Gosling,
tell
as you can see by his
Ryan
reaction
Gosling was
there. He doesn't want to be doing this, I don't think.
no,
Whereas I think Billy is very willing to be doing this. We'll have
no.
to see if he performs at the
Yeah.
Oscars. I don't know.
I
He doesn't
think
look very willing.
this was the way to be like, sorry, Ryan, we didn't vote for you against Downey, but we're gonna honor
That's
Ken this
true.
way.
That's
Um,
true.
and I don't think Oscar voters are gonna vote that way.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
true. You guys personally, let's see. Do you guys personally think it's too soon for the Oscars to have an Oppenheimer sweep?
No.
I don't think so. I think it just every year will be a different case. And I don't think they'll be thinking about last year when voting for this year. I think their love for Oppenheimer will just
And
very
they
strong.
are two separate films at the separate ends of this industry. One was this little engine that could coming from this independent studio that was all made in this Los Angeles warehouse,
Yeah.
whatever, like compared to the biggest studio picture from Universal, from Christopher.
We
Like
haven't
I
had
just think that
something quite like Oppenheimer at the Oscars in a long
yeah,
time either. So I think
and
that's very like
I would
this
argue
epic.
since like Titanic, yeah. So like it's been
Yeah.
what
Or
26 years
Gladiator.
since something like that, and Everything Everywhere. We've just never had a movie like that. So I just
Hmm.
because listen, I feel the thing, but even look at the Emmys. Look at what we for the past couple years we've been saying like, oh my God, they're just going to keep going to the same shows over and over again. Beef, Succession, and The Bear all won 6 out of 7 categories that were
Which
in
is
the
a little
comedy.
lazy. At least they're great
Yeah,
shows, but yeah.
but I think that just shows that it's just because it happened for Everything Everywhere doesn't mean it can't happen for Oppenheimer. Like
They're two
I
very
think
different kind of movies.
very
Yeah.
different films with different people, different studios. They represent different. Like when you look at like the list of Best Picture winners, and you look at these two, like they're very different films. It's not like
Hmm.
you're looking at Green Book and then The Blind Side, and they happen like back to back years. Like that. That's when I think you have to like question it a little bit. When you have like two
I think it's
similar
very
films
similar to
doing the same
Titanic
thing.
in a way because I think James Cameron, it took him a little while, kind of like Christopher Nolan, to because he was doing more genre big hit films to make a more Oscar appealing dramatic film
Yeah.
that finally gets him his due.
You could even I would even maybe because Titanic, I I think Titanic was like a big box office player. That's why I think we're liking it and had the scale of something like Oppenheimer. But really, this is
Hmm.
more Schindler's List. This is the popular filmmaker making a serious drama and finally being able to award him in this fashion. Like that to me is more like the lineup. Um
Hmm.
so yeah, I personally to answer the question, I don't think it hurts. I think they're very different films.
I don't think so either. No. And really quickly, I don't know if you ever saw it. I thought it was a bad movie. The Sun by Florian Zeller. Yeah,
I trusted
good
your
choice.
judgment on
Good
that one.
choice. Yeah, not a great movie there. It'll be
I mean,
interesting to
my
see what
thing
he
is
does
like,
next.
if it doesn't come out and then the Oscar like the season gets going and it doesn't really pick
And
up
it gets
steam
nothing.
and then it gets bad reviews, it's like, well, then why am I wasting my time? So-
That's true. That's true. Speaking of song, I've been looking at this recently. I forgot what the song is called, but the indigenous song from Killers of the Flower Moon, I do think has a shot of like sneaking into that final spot. We saw it last year with Everything Everywhere. Sometimes songs that are in big Best Picture films can just sneak into those last few spots. And I think it could be seen as, alongside Gilly Gladstone, like you say, Josephine, a way to honor the indigenous people and that
yeah.
aspect of the film. So it'll be interesting. We'll have to discuss it when we do our final nominations. It's definitely in contention for that last spot.
If only Diane Warren wrote it, it would be a surefire thing to get in that category.
If only Diane Warren didn't release anything this year, it would have a better shot of getting in. But yeah.
Hey, at least this one, some people have seen the movie more proportionally than others because it was the Flamin' Hot Hulu movie.
Yeah.
We know this movie exists before the Oscar nominations. That's a win.
Unlike whatever that was last year.
Tell It Like a Woman. Was that last year?
Tell It Like a Woman. That was, yeah.
No, it was For Good. I forget. She writes a lot.
No, I think it was Tell It Like a Woman.
I think it was. Was that Sophia Carson last year? I forget.
Yeah, that was last year. Yeah, it's in every year.
Blur. We've done 3 award shows in like 9 days. That's a blur.
I know it's a lot. But we've got some nominations coming up. I think we'll talk about the TV stuff when we touch on the Emmys in a second because it's pretty much the exact same stuff.
And Ludwig, wrap it up, lock it up. He's winning.
Yeah, Ludwig is a lock. But we've got the BAFTA nominations coming out this Thursday, very soon, early in the morning. We'll have to see how that goes. And this is interesting. So before we get into, actually, I can pull up Gold Derby and then I can get into or as I pull up Gold Derby, I can bring up their jury voting thing with best film overall, which is 5 nominations. They do it's pretty much like the Oscars. It's like popular voting. Whatever gets the most votes gets in there. There's no jury stuff going on there. With the director category, I think it's 2 of the most popular people get in, and then the following 4 are all jury picks. And then with acting, it's the top 3 get in, and then the bottom 3 are jury picks. And then everything else beyond that is similar to Best Picture, where it's just the most popular votes. So,
and if that sounds confusing, it's because it is.
It's because it is. Yeah. And they change it every year. Like maybe even last year it was like 2 jury votes and then 4 or whatever it was.
Listen, it's their attempt to be inclusive and to try and make sure they're not discounting
racist,
underrepresented voices. Yes. So it's worthy. I'm glad they're trying, but at the same time, it makes our job very difficult. And that's why
it's when people just like see the lists, I think it sometimes throws them off because I think big names will miss and they'll be like, whoa, how'd that happen? It's because of the vote.
And they don't like Spielberg. That's what we know.
They don't like a lot of American stuff. They like their British stuff here. So taking that into mind, let's talk about Best Picture here, where I don't know. I think that top 4 is pretty safe, don't you think? Oppenheimer, Killers, Poor Things, and Anatomy.
Yes.
Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. And then I think
you don't have Zone of Interest?
That makes sense. That's what I should have in the last spot. But I put All of Us Strangers because I need it to happen, even though it's ranked last. Well, I think the second to last.
I think Zone of Interest, which is a United Kingdom film, it's their submission for the Oscars.
It is.
I think that will
That's
get
a very
in.
good point. That's a very good point.
Over All of Us Strangers, which again, I think that it's a very moving film for members of our audience and for my co-host. But I also, it's not.
I'm not British.
I think Zone of Interest, like it's funny because they're both depressing films, but I think Zone of Interest has the type of. I think the distance we have to that history, I think allows you to kind of understand that film more. It's a weird thing to think about. I think because of the way the film ends, All of Us Strangers, it's with that last long tracking shot out.
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of feel like Zone of Interest is easier to process the ending of.
It is, and you're right.
We have 75 years distance from.
It's the United Kingdom's submission to the Oscars as well. It makes sense. I think they would. You persuaded me. I mean, I really shouldn't have said All of Us Strangers anyway. That was pure passion. But Zone of Interest makes sense. I think they would get in over Barbie, which is ranked 5th. I just don't. I think the British people are maybe a little more. They probably don't have as much of a connection. I don't know how international Barbie is. I think it might be more of an American thing.
Interesting.
But
I mean, it's obviously popular. The movie made 1.4 billion, so they know what Barbie is abroad. I can't believe I just said that Zone of Interest is not the most depressing movie. That's funny.
You think Zone of Interest is less depressing than All of Us Strangers?
I think that, again,
I haven't seen Zone.
The way that he ends the movie, I felt that I was more like, wow, Jonathan.
I thought there was hope at the end of All of Us Strangers.
You thought there? Yeah, no, I didn't.
I thought that was like hopeful.
Okay. No, did not see hope.
Might have to
maybe I was more impressed with Zone of Interest, like as a film, that was what I was riding on at the end of the movie.
Hope and acceptance, but
yeah, than All of Us Strangers. All of Us Strangers, I was like mixed on the movie, but Zone of Interest, I loved. The more I think about it, I really appreciate that film, and so that part of it helped. Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah.
It's a great film.
Yeah.
Once it opens in maybe like April, go see Zone of Interest. It's a
Yeah,
really
I have
important,
to
harrowing,
see it somehow.
really great film.
Hopefully they put it on. They haven't even put it on the Film Independent Screener list, which is for people to vote. So I don't know. It's confusing. But yeah, Barbie did do well on the long list. It just doesn't, to me personally, seem like something that the BAFTA voting body would love.
Yep.
But we'll have to see.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a pretty easy one right there, I think. Now we move into the juried category, starting with director, where I believe I said it was top 2 jury and then the rest, or no, top 2 popular vote, the rest are jury. I'm pretty positive about that, which I think your top 2 are pretty obvious. It's Nolan and Scorsese. Then I think you've got all your European appealing films with Poor Things, Zone, and Anatomy, and then your jury pick Andrew Hay for all.
This one I think is more likely.
Insane. That's not insane.
You can defend this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That one he's still ranked a little lower than I would like, but I think those 2 are easily your top 2. I think popular vote. These 3, it's just obvious with like the BAFTA voting body and then being very European that they would get in. And then your last spot is whatever jury pick, save, or like spotlight you think they're going to do. I don't think they're going to do Gerwig just because I don't know. Then that's just kind of like your basic top 6 in director.
Yeah.
I think they kind of maybe want to highlight something a little more, which I think could be maybe Past Lives, but I think maybe it could be How to Have Sex, which they really also liked in the long lists. But I'm going to stick with Andrew Hay because he's been a working director for a long time. He's British. I think it makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good call.
And yeah, maybe Yorgos could be top 2. I just think, and if Yorgos is top 2, I still think Scorsese probably is.
I think that top 5 is locked. I would be shocked.
I think that top 5 is pretty
misses.
safe. Yeah, I agree. Okay, now into these crazy ones. Ignore the order. It could be in any way, really, because these I think are obviously your top 3 here. They're obviously all going to with the BAFTA voting body.
No Carey Mulligan.
No Carey Mulligan, because I think then their 3 jury picks. They liked How to Have Sex a lot. I think they're going to put Mia McKenna Bruce in there. They liked Past Lives a lot. They shortlisted TOU. So I think they're going to have Greta Lee in there. I think that movie appeals to a more British taste than maybe even American Academy taste. And I don't know. I feel like maybe they want to, especially for diversity, considering how not diverse they've been in the past, and because she was great in the movie, and they long listed the movie plenty of times, and it seems like they liked it enough. I think they'd give Vivian Oparah a bone because Carey Mulligan's probably still going to get it at the Oscars anyway. So I think that might be more of a passion pick. I don't really see maybe Fantasia, but I doubt it. I don't think they do Margot or Annette. So I think it's really between
you have the person they'll put in if they don't put in Carey Mulligan. It's an interesting choice. She's British, right? She's not one of those sneaky Australian.
Carey Mulligan is British. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I think that, and she is the best part of Maestro. Not counting Bradley Cooper's direction. So it's tough. I mean, I could see a world where maybe Greta Lee misses out and maybe Carey Mulligan takes her spot. I like the Rylane nomination, but also it could be a little too small. But also they go for stuff like Ali and Ava. So maybe you have something here.
Like last year they did what's his name from that Emma Thompson movie. Darren McCormack.
Oh, Good Luck to You, Leo Grand.
Yeah, Good Luck to You, Leo Grand. I think they like to spotlight that stuff with their jury picks.
Yeah,
those more.
And she is very good in Rylane. She's a wonderful romantic.
Incredible in it. Yeah, she is very good. And yes, everyone watch Rylane. Great filmmaking, great acting, very funny. Daryl McCormack, thank you. But yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna go for there. Actor is tricky. I think your top 3, Cillian Murphy. I think Andrew Scott's going to be in your top 3 overall popular picks. And even if not, he'll be a jury pick anyways. I think Bradley Cooper will probably be a top 3 pick, but if not, I think he could miss. If out of all of these people, who do you think your top 3 popular votes would be here? Some other options.
I think Paul Giamatti is not as fragile as you think he is. I think that he's maybe more likely than Maestro, because I think with Bradley Cooper, it's acting with a capital A, where I think Paul Giamatti is, it reminds me of the Laurence Olivier, Dustin Hoffman thing, where Laurence Olivier tells Dustin Hoffman, my good sir, have you ever tried acting? Ever?
Yeah.
And I think that's Paul Giamatti, I think, gets credit for just like walking in, doing what he's supposed to do, creates a character.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would maybe put him above Cooper.
So
I don't think Cooper
maybe
misses.
then this would be your top 3 popular vote, and Andrew Scott would be a jury pick, maybe.
Maybe. I think honestly all 4 of them are probably strong. They love Leo, as shown with the Don't Look Up nomination, so he's in. And then
people are bringing up Barry has done very well here before.
Maybe Barry instead of TOU, because I just don't think people are talking
maybe
about
instead
TOU.
of Leo.
They like Kill Us the Flower Moon and they like Leo, and despite what we may think of it, he is 50%. He is the movie, even more than Lily Gladstone is. Really, I mean, that's the movie's about Leo, so it would be it's kind of hard to imagine him missing, especially in a category of 6. So I think if you're going to take somebody off, I think you take off TOU and put on Barry K.
What about Jeffrey Wright? They didn't love that film overall, so I don't really think
they didn't love the film, and it's not. Have you seen it?
Oh yeah. He's good in it, but it's not like showy.
He's good, but like, what's his scene? Like, it doesn't. That's like it's kind of leans more of a comedy, even more than like Barbie does in some ways. As far as like Sterling K. Brown gets a great like moments throughout, and it's just I love Jeffrey Wright, and I think he's great in the film, but it's not designed to get a nomination in the way that Bradley Cooper is, and even Andrew Scott is. And I think Barry Keoghan is just so out there and is just so much fun to watch. And they've shown that they like watching him in the past.
It's also right in the title, American fiction, not British fiction.
Yeah, and Saltburn is a British film nominated or in the running for Best British Film. We'll see if it makes it all the way to nominations. So I don't know. I think I'm going to
stick... is an overall Best Film contender, though. So,
yeah,
I don't know.
But Past Lives is also an overall player at the Oscars, and there's no talk of him there. I'm going to lean with Barry.
Yeah, but they don't have jury picks there.
Yeah, but still, I just think they're talking about Greta Lee. It's Greta Lee. That's who the acting person. She's the she's the person who is embodying the ensemble.
Yes, and this award season will be Bradley's Joker origin story. I'm interested to see what he does after this, because it is kind of. It's interesting when someone, I think, very openly, like, and just out there is very much wanting it and like showing that he wants it, and then for them to not then give it to him is kind of like, I'm interested to see what he does next after this. I don't think he'll do another huge Oscar baity thing, but maybe he will. I don't know how desperate he is. I think he'll maybe try something different.
Well, first off, I feel like this is what everybody was saying about The Aviator, and then Martin Scorsese didn't win for The Aviator, and then 2 years later he had The Departed, and he won for that. So, and I think people were like, "Oh, thank God, we can give it to him for something he's really good at." I think the problem with him is that he's too good, and he stretches himself over all these categories, and he's a movie star. He's likable. It's like that was the thing about Matthew McConaughey, is that he deglammed himself. I think Bradley Cooper has to find the role that has us stop looking at Bradley Cooper. Every time we see him, and I love him, I'm always looking at Bradley Cooper. I think his best performance is honestly Silver Linings Playbook, because it's the one performance where I feel like, oh my God, it's him and Jennifer Lawrence and the chemistry they have. Like I didn't see him as much where American Hustle, American Sniper, Star is Born, like I'm always looking at, wow, look at Bradley Cooper. And I don't think you win Oscars because you're saying, wow, look at the actor. Look at the actor act. I think that's what hurts him.
Most of the time. Brendan. We don't need to talk about that movie.
Listen, he was hurt. He won because it was visible acting, and it was that he was going up against an ingenue. He was going up. Austin Butler was really the only one that seemed to be able to take him out, and he has a whole career ahead of him. If he was going, I think that Maestro versus The Whale, that would have been a fascinating.
That would be crazy. I think Bradley Cooper would have probably won last year, to be honest, if I were to guess. But yeah, I think his next project is probably, he's either doing that movie with Leo or that Steven Spielberg like movie. So yeah, I think he'll be fine. He's a huge star,
he'll be nominated. We'll see. I mean, we'll see. We have to see the movie, but his next Oscar nomination will probably be for potentially producing Joker 2. So we'll see how that movie.
We'll have to see how that movie turns out. You got some fans.
That'd be crazy. He wins his Oscar for producing Joker 2 with Lady Gaga.
That is not winning Best Picture. Never.
That'd be so funny.
Never.
Oh, thank
The
you.
fan, yes, getting some compliments. Feel free to send a super chat to tell him. No,
Stop.
I'm joking. But I agree with everyone in the chat. I'm gonna put Barry in, and I guess I'll take out TOU and put in Barry. So that would be my top 6 there. That's probably the 6 you would have too, right?
Yeah. Again, I never know what BAFTA could change.
True.
BAFTA could change their voting policies like tomorrow, and we would have to live with that.
Yeah, I haven't even heard of them. So George McKay, good actor. Looks a lot like Harris Dickinson. I confuse them sometimes. So I'm interested.
One was in a war movie called 1917, and the other was in a war movie called The King's Man.
Yes, that's
and
they look very similar.
Anti-war movie of all time that ends in 30 minutes of violence.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that one, but I would say George McKay won that battle. Supporting actress. I think this is your top 3 here. Divine, Emily Blunt, and Rosamund. As everyone said, Saltburn's pretty popular and strong here. You got your 3 passion picks, your jury picks. I got Claire Foy. I got Sandra Hüller. I got some Cara Jade Myers for Killers. I think that would be a decent jury pick. I mean, they long listed her, so I feel like they might just then throw her in there. But it could be.
Yeah, I feel like the potential interesting aspect of throwing in Cara Jade, we might be over counting, and that'll just do Danielle Brooks. But I think it's a good call. I definitely think that she's probably more likely than the other ones. Maybe Julianne Moore, because maybe May December just hits
they didn't
more
like
European.
That movie.
I know, but maybe they just like
this is like one of the only
they like
things
her.
Maybe
they're
not going to save Jodie Foster or America Ferrera. I don't think.
All right, so we have to have 2 conversations. One,
the America. She did it.
Do we think the See Her award and the speech she gave
in the middle
of Oscar voting, does that?
I was thinking about it.
This is my thing. I really don't see a world where America Ferrera and Ryan Gosling get nominated and Margot Robbie doesn't. And right now, I don't have Margot Robbie in there because it just doesn't seem like the performance they go for.
Who do you have in there?
I'm feeling Greta Lee because that feels more like Lady Gaga for House of Gucci. The more commercial performance misses the nomination to Kristen Stewart and Spencer. Just for example, they don't tend to go for those big commercial performances. Tom Cruise misses out, and Michael B. Jordan for Black Panther misses out when people were predicting him in a very similar movie as you've made the case for today. So if I'm thinking Greta Lee has that 5th spot, do I really think that America Ferrera is going to get nominated? It just seems too unrealistic. Now, I could be wrong, and both of them get in, and that's I think they either both get in or neither of them gets in, and Ryan is the sole nominee.
Which would be a choice for the Barbie movie, but very Oscar-y choice, to be honest. She could get in. I don't think she's going to get in at the BAFTAs either way, but at the Oscars, that speech was very good. And it was in the middle of Oscar voting. Everyone in the room, who are pretty much all besides the critics, Oscar voters, loved it. So I don't know. We'll have to see. It's in my mind when we do our final Oscar predictions.
I really think that part of because what do they love about it? Her performance. They love her speech,
the monologue,
and I think they're going to they'll just send it all the way towards the screenplay.
And the other thing, of them, she has the most acting clippy thing, honestly, with that speech, out of Margot, Ryan, and
America. I'm Just Ken is a great.
Yeah, it clip. Is. It is. It's less acty, maybe though.
Yeah. Okay. Correct that. I have now 3 things. So we did 1. 2. Okay. Do we think Sandra Hüller? I think it's very likely she gets a double nom here. Do we think she? I've seen people say that she's going to get a double nom at the Oscars.
I don't think she's. I don't think. No. You look at the past double nominees; they're big Hollywood stars. I just don't. I don't know. She'll get in for Anatomy of a Fall. I don't think she'll get in for. I think people saw Zone get PGA and they're like, "Oh my god, it's going to get like 6 or 7 nominations." And I don't think that's going to happen.
And she's good in Zone of Interest, but it's not the type of performance they go for. B. I think that they're not going to go. I can't remember any time they went 2 in the same year for an actor that they didn't really know the year before. None of the characters come off well in that movie. That is true. And then there's I don't know. It just seems like it's like because who would you knock out in that scenario? Would you knock out like Jodie Foster for a double Sandra Hüller?
No,
That seems like
no.
that doesn't seem like the
As Ian
Academy's
is
thing.
saying, I haven't watched it yet, but Jodie Foster's having her moment right now. I mean, she just presented Sarah Snook with an Emmy last night.
Yes.
So yeah, two very.
All right, and now the third thing we have to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
We have to talk about the origin rise that's been happening over the past.
I'm surprised we didn't bring it up in actress. Yeah, I'm not buying it personally. If they picked a single category to focus on, maybe like with Andrea Riseborough last year, but they're just saying consider origin, mostly for picture and actress, I think.
I really think if Origin got one nomination for Best Picture, that would be crazy. Listen, I love this film, and I think it would be completely deserving. But it does seem locked. It just seems so weird that would be like one nomination for Best Picture. And I agree with you, Andrea Riseborough. It was like put her in to that's another example. The Woman King, more commercial film from a popular actor, misses out for Ana de Armas and Blonde. So that's why I'm leaning Greta Lee, because there seems to be love for past lives. But yeah, I just think that Origin, like, people are talking about Ingenue Ellis, and then they're talking about Ava DuVernay for directing, and then they're talking about for screenplay, and then they're talking for picture. Like, I don't think there's any real consensus over where to support this movie.
I don't think the names that they have are on the Andrea Riseborough level either.
And they're not all within one branch.
Yeah, and hosting a Q&A and saying this is the best performance of all time. We don't have Emma Stone shouting out Ingenue Ellis-Taylor in her Critics' Choice Awards speech.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think also because it happened last year, people are thinking it's a bigger deal than it is.
That's where we bring back that comment. That's something that's not always going to happen. And just because it happened last year does not mean it's going to happen this year. And
Frances Fisher seems like she's going to keep trying every year, though.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Listen, I admire it, because I think that, I for one was very surprised and honest. I thought it was awful that like Neon just didn't seem to want to put in the campaign for this film that I think was definitely one of the best movies of the year. I think, Ingenue should be in there. Ava should be in there for both writing and directing. The movie should be for picture. I love this movie. And for some reason they decided to prioritize Ferrari. I liked Ferrari, but still. So I'm all for trying to like grassroots get in, especially if this doesn't seem to be, breaking any Oscar rules that we know of. But yeah, I think that not consolidating over one category, like if it was for me, if I thought that, like, I would try to get the directors. There's Ava DuVernay has a lot of respect with directors. You see it with Michael Mann. It's a smaller branch. And I think it would be a historic nomination. And I think if they framed it as the campaign let her down a decade ago with Selma, correct the wrong from a decade ago with a film that is her magnum opus, then I think that should have been the thing. As much as I love Ingenue Ellis, but like Ingenue Ellis has been Oscar nominated for King Richard, Ingenue Ellis-Taylor now. Ava DuVernay is still waiting for like that Best Director category. I know she was nominated for 13th, but it's different. To be Best Director nominated is separate. I think that's what they should have pushed.
I also think the categories that they're contending in, director, picture, and actress, are three of the most competitive categories this year, and especially compared to last year. Where actress, I think Ana de Armas got in for Blonde, and Andrea Riseborough was able to get in. Less competitive for sure.
So anyway, all right, we mentioned it. I would be happy to see it get in its categories. I think this is a year where you're not going to have to worry about, oh my God, that film got left off. Oh my God. It's a very good year with a lot of great films.
This year is like 2019, I think, where you've got like your top 4 or 5 movies that are going to get maybe like double nominations that are just going to take over a lot of categories, and there'll be a few other films. Thank you, Alex. Thank you for subscribing.
Thank you. Welcome to the party.
And we try to make good points sometimes. I don't think that there's going to be a Ken spinoff personally, but we'll have to see. I think either way, having Ken be like the main nomination with Gosling and The Song just probably wouldn't be a great look. But we'll have to see. The Oscars.
Well, he won't. I don't think he'll win Song. I think that's Barbie.
He won't win
The
supporting
Song.
actor either.
No. But I think Again, I think it just speaks. I think the Ryan Gosling getting in over Margot Robbie, who we've both said, I think Margot Robbie delivers the superior performance.
Best in the
I think it just
yeah.
comes down to the competition. That Best Actress is a lot more competitive. And
Mhm.
this year, I think you will see the most female-led Best Picture nominees in the history of the Academy Awards. That is rare, and that's where she gets dinged. I also think it's easier to award comedic supporting performances than comedic lead performances. You don't see Joe Pesci alongside Marissa Tomei. You don't see Kristen Wiig alongside Melissa McCarthy. That just seems to
Mhm.
how it worked out, and it just the man was the supporting actor. I also think that Margot
Yeah.
Robbie is taken care of with Best Picture,
With
and the
Best Picture.
screenplay is honored. So the female elements of the film are being recognized.
They
They're just
are.
not
Mhm.
recognized in the main character, which also, as much as I love the performance, she is, she's in The Straight Woman, she's reacting in many times to
It's not
the
as showy. Yeah.
eccentricities, to Ryan Gosling, to the other Barbies, to America Ferrera. So I think that hurts her a little bit too. The big emotional climax of her arc comes from Billie Eilish.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that has something to do with it. But no, I don't
Yeah.
think it
Yeah.
hurts anything. And frankly, I'd be pretty surprised if they make a Ken spinoff. I feel
I
like
don't
we're gonna.
maybe, I don't
I
know.
I think Barbie 2 is
They'll try and do something
likely,
with it. They
but
made a
I think
Joker too,
yeah. Yeah,
so
I
we'll
think I
see.
would love like a Barbie Christmas movie that like make a Christmas sequel.
Yeah.
I would love that.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
They're definitely gonna do something. Keep
Yeah.
thinking Sandra Huller might miss Yalitza Aparicio got nominated for a career own film. Isabelle Huppert is arguably more widely known in the industry. This is what I was talking about earlier on in the season when I thought she's not a big name, but I thought her film wasn't going to be nearly as big as it ended up being.
It could win
It's
screenplay.
overperforming everywhere. Could win screenplay. I have it getting in like editing and stuff at the Oscars. Spoiler
Oh
alert.
wow.
Um, I think it's going to do and you look at, I keep mentioning it, but like I forget what trade it was, but they did an interview with a ton of like directors and their favorite films of the last year. And the movie that got the most mentions, I think of like 30 something people, was Anatomy of a Fall. I think it's very much transcended that barrier because a ton of it's in English as well, to be fair. So I think Sandra is pretty safe an actress. I
Yeah.
think she should
And
put that one.
Marion Cotillard got in. There are examples of them wanting to go highbrow with a European actor. And I think the fact that Anatomy of the Fall is a Best Picture contender helps. It won
Hmm.
at the Golden Globes 2 awards, so that
Hmm.
rose its profile. I know a lot of people who checked it out this week
Won the
because of
Palme
that.
d'Or.
And the Palme d'Or. And I do think that, this is the thing. They're watching both movies. We know they're watching Anatomy of the Fall, and we
Hmm.
know they're watching Zone of Interest. And I do think
Hmm.
that the Oscar voters are saying this woman deserves recognition for this year. In the same way that
She's
Scarlett
having a great.
Johansson, being in setting aside Endgame, was also in Jojo Rabbit and Marriage Story. And we're like, all right, this is a year we need to honor this actor. So
Hmm.
I think it'll happen. I frankly am as confident in her as I am in Carrie Mulligan, meaning that there's Emma Stone and Lily Gladstone, Carrie Mulligan and Sandra
You have Carey
Hewler.
Mulligan in third?
I just
Interesting.
I
I
have
have
them
her
in that
fourth.
second tier.
Yeah.
Um, and then you have
I
people
think she
battling
could
for the fifth
miss.
spot. You have Greta Lee, Margot Robbie, and Fantasia Barrino.
Hmm.
Right?
It
That's
also
gonna
is
be
worth mentioning, I tweeted about this, only 3 times in the history of the Oscars have all 5 performances in lead actress been in Best Picture films, which right now your predicted top 5. I
yeah.
think most people's predicted top 5 would be
The
that,
only
but
Natalie Portman getting in there would be the only person to really f that up
yeah,
at this point.
pretty much. Or Annette Bening, but that's not going to happen.
Never say never, man. It happened
Yeah,
with SAG. It could
yeah,
translate. You never know.
yeah. This
They're
is true.
watching it because they're watching Jodie Foster.
We've been procrastinating the supporting actor category, where Charles Melton, not even an option to put in here. Insane. But your top 3, I think, RDJ, Ryan Gosling, and De Niro, they've gotten in everywhere. They're probably your top 3 here. I think Mark Ruffalo, I think they'll like Poor Things, and he'll get up in there being a jury pick. I think Jamie Bell will be a jury pick. I don't know about Ben Whishaw. Who would your third jury pick be? I don't think I'll go with him. But I have to
I
say
mean, I don't
maybe
know. I
Dominic
think he
Sessa.
could happen. I could maybe see a world where your top 3 includes Ruffalo and De Niro misses, and then they bring in Dominic Sessa.
Okay.
I could see
Yeah,
that
that's true.
happening. But at the same time, I also think that Irishman has conditioned us to think that De Niro will miss like he's always he's fragile, and I don't always think that's the case. So we'll see. But I don't know. Ben Whishaw, he can sneak in there. I feel like he's that type of performer, especially at BAFTA, that could surprise.
I feel like that's kind of like a jury pick thing they do.
Yeah.
But I'm tempted to go with Dominic Sessa as a jury pick. I just don't once again know how much they liked that film overall. It did decent here. It did better than I would have expected. But it's a different thing being in the final list as opposed to the long list. So
I think with a jury, they could maybe save Dominic Sessa because they're like, listen, we're giving it to Giamatti and Divine Joe Randolph, and he's as integral to that movie as those two. And the jury mindset gets them to go put him in there. I could see that happening.
It is. I don't understand how Paul Mescal is above Jamie Bell, because I just personally think Jamie Bell is much more of a standout in that film than Paul was.
Because he's Paul Mescal is the more attractive.
But Jamie Bell's done.
I don't know.
I think they're both attractive.
I just think that Paul Mescal. Paul Mescal has. I feel like what
if we're going off attractiveness, Anthony, well, then here's your next addition.
Oh Lord,
Jacob Elordi is making the final.
But
list.
I don't know. I think Paul Mescal is just he's breaking out in the same way that Timothy broke out with Call Me by Your Name. Like it was, and this is his beautiful boy. Paul Mescal, it's just, he has a lot of love. So
yeah, I'm gonna stick with Ben Whishaw. Why not do something a little different? Why not?
Fun. This is the BAFTAs. These aren't the Oscars.
Yeah, this is hard to predict sometimes. Original screenplay. I think Anatomy is probably going to win here. I think Past Lives and Holdovers. That's your easy top 3 in the category. I think Barbie still gets in off of a popular vote way. And then I guess Saltburn, it did pretty well here. Emerald Fennell's an Oscar winner. She probably won the BAFTA here as well for original screenplay for Promising Young Woman. So I could see How to Have Sex, though. I'm very tempted to do that. But that would be more of a jury pick, I think, than a popular vote pick. And this is not jury. This is all popular vote. So that is that. Other screenplay category, adapted. This is just pretty easy, I think. Oppenheimer, Poor Things, Killers, All the Strangers, and Zone of Interest. I don't really see what else it would be. They didn't like American Fiction that much. Maybe, but they didn't like it that much.
Dumb Money.
Yeah, Dumb Money. Wonka. No. Should throw in Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret a bone. That would be amazing, but that's not going to happen. Casting. This is an interesting one. Oppenheimer, yes. Killers, yes. They do some weird stuff here, though. I'd say maybe they do have sex. They're like when you cast like unknown people, or like people who they haven't seen before, or sometimes like kids. So I guess How to Have Sex, Anatomy of a Fall, also because they cast a kid in that. And then Scrapper, because they cast a kid in that. Is my logic. They cast a bunch of kids in these movies. Saltburn makes a lot of sense though, so maybe I should kick out Scrapper for Saltburn. I don't understand why it would just be that top 5. I think they're going to do something a little different in casting because they usually do with the past. I mean, they gave Joker the win for casting. I don't know what that was. Interesting choice.
Cast one guy.
But they do.
You cast a great guy.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
You cast Brian Tyree Henry as an orderly.
I mean, all of these films had good casting, so it's hard to pick one over the other. So, I mean, Dominic Sessa, that's another young person. Case for casting.
I love that
these are all good.
If you go through our show, there are certain little stats or little things that you cling on to, and it's so fun.
Young person. Yeah. I don't know. What would you have here? Would you just go with the top 5? This is a hard category to predict.
Yeah, because I feel like we can't ignore Barbie everywhere. And so I think Barbie will pop up in some places. It did well.
Yeah, and they cast a bunch of Barbies and Kens. Yeah, that's true.
So I think that maybe you have that top 3.
Maybe I'll get rid of Scrapper.
And Barbie. I like How to Have Sex. I think that is a cool choice to put in there.
I think that's a cool choice. Yeah.
I also think you always have to check what did they nominate the actors for, because their love of the cast will show there.
That's true.
So that's just
in that case, maybe I should have. Well, I have like all of these movies getting acting nominations. So
yeah. So
this is tricky. I'll just stick with this, I guess.
Also, I'm still like, why is this category 5 and the other ones are 6? Like the BAFTA.
Well, I'm just going to confuse you even more. Animated feature, we've got 4 options here.
Oh God.
but I think it's a pretty easy 4. I think it's Spider-Man, Boy and the Heron, Nimona, and then Chicken Run is a British movie, so I'll probably just do that. Over, I would love for it to be one of Elemental, or it's really, or not Elemental. I wouldn't. Sorry, I mispronounced. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
You mispronounced Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as
I did, yeah. There's a lot of similar letters in there. It's fine. I like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles a lot more.
It's better than the other two.
It's better than these two. Neither of these. There's a reason they're at 101. But yeah. I think that's a pretty easy top 4 there. They don't do the tech categories here on Gold Derby, but I think they're probably pretty predictable for the most part.
Or they're not, because it's the BAFTAs, and they're like they snubbed like West Side Story for cinematography. You know,
I know.
You never know.
I'll just mention Zone of Interest has not been doing very well with the cinematography nominations thus far. If it misses at BAFTA, I still have it in my personal 5, but if it misses at BAFTA for cinematography, I would then take it out. Probably put in El Conde. So I think that'll be
at the Oscars.
Definitely at the Oscars, yeah. Well, El Conde got the AST.
We'll see.
Zone of Interest hasn't gotten like anything really. It even missed the BSC. The
Tar
British
got
Society
cinematography. Remember, Tar got nominated for cinematography. So I would not put El Conde, which is a movie that the Oscar voters are not watching, over Zone of Interest, which they are.
Watched Bardo. I guess people watched Bardo.
Yeah, but Bardo came. I don't know. I feel like it was Pablo Larraín, right? Who did El Conde?
Yeah.
All due respect, Alejandro González Iñárritu won back-to-back Oscars, and that didn't happen since Mankiewicz in like 50 years ago, 50 plus. True. That helps you get on the. And it wasn't it Lubezki or not? I feel like it was somebody for Bardo. Wasn't it? Let me check.
Who was it? I don't know.
Maybe it wasn't Lubezki. Still, I think the Netflix.
The cinematography category is weird stuff. They kicked out Top Gun last year, so
yeah,
who knows? We'll have to see. I think who knows? Maybe they might kick out Poor Things or something. But we'll have to talk about that when we do our final predictions soon. The nominations are in a week, guys.
I'm not going to butcher his name. That was Bardo.
Oh yes, Darius I think Kanji is how you pronounce his last name. Darius.
He should have won. It was a beautifully shot film.
It was very well shot. Very well shot. That movie got more hate than it deserved, honestly.
Because you watched it at home. Again, testing my theory. I saw it in a theater.
Netflix.
It was a glorious film. If you watch Netflix movies at home, they don't impact you the same way. I'm gonna write my college thesis.
This is true. This is true. I saw both the Netflix films this year in theaters. And it helped with one of them. The other one was not good no matter what.
One?
May December and Maestro.
Maestro. I completely forgot. I was like, for some reason, this is how tired I am. I didn't even go to Rebel Moon. My mind went to Army of the Dead. That's the zombie
for movie. The Netflix movie I saw in theaters.
That's the other Netflix. That's for some reason I heard Netflix movie and my mind went to Army of the Dead. Movie that came out 2.5 years ago?
At least, yeah.
At least.
I will
Wasn't
not
it like 2021? Oh, good lord.
Yeah. Rebel Moon Part 2 comes out on my birthday, but I will actually be preparing for challengers the following week that day. So late birthday gift.
Yeah. All right.
That's it for the BAFTAs. Let us now move on to. Let's talk about the Emmy winners. I think we can skim through these pretty fast because it's pretty much nothing too crazy happened here. What was your overall? Did you watch the ceremony?
I did. I thought it. For a show that had 27 categories and an in memoriam,
it was fast.
They moved it. I think the only thing that made it feel slow was that we just seen all these people give this speech 3 times this week. But they were deserving people, so I didn't really mind. It was great to see Sarah Snook and Kieran Culkin and all the people that we love win these awards. It's still funny to me that this was the Bears' first season that they were winning for. I thought Niecy Nash-Betts gave an incredible speech, as everybody's been saying. Very happy for her. She also is in Origin, so make sure to look out for her when she's in that. Christina Applegate was my favorite moment of the night. Just love that. Love that they gave her a standing ovation. They were up on their feet a lot last night.
They were.
And it should be noted that Succession won writing for every season, which might be a record. Very fun, very cool for Jesse Armstrong. And I mean, Oh, I loved the reunions. I thought they did a nice job
They were
with
fun.
that. And the Always Sunny reunion was so good.
Lots of people talking about how they never got honored at the Emmys
Yeah.
with those reunions. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty much The Bear, Succession, and Beef winning pretty much. Quinta Brunson,
Yeah.
one of the few non-Bear Succession Beef winners.
It's-
That was an
I
interesting
had that,
category.
and you made me switch it. I don't
I
blame
made you
you.
switch to Rachel Brosnahan. I'm sorry. It made a lot of sense to me. And I always listen to the applauses for each person as they say their name to gauge the audience, which probably doesn't matter at all. But I think Brosnahan got the biggest applause, so I was feeling pretty good. But I guess not.
But that could have been, we didn't vote for you, but we liked you.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That's the consolation prize. It should be noted, though, that Quinta Brunson becomes the second woman of color to win this category.
Ever.
I believe,
That's
second
insane.
Black woman to win this category ever. That's
Insane.
big. That's huge. She's deserving. It's a great performance. A lot of emotion. A lot of great.
She's like the architect behind that whole thing. Yeah. So
I think,
and she's an underrated performance on that show too.
Yeah, because I think, the supporting characters are, more colorful, they have more things to do. She's the straight woman, so she has to, be the anchor for everybody, but she's great. And I honestly feel that, in many ways, I'm just catching up with, I'm so glad there's certain shows that I've like waited so that I have the joy later to catch up on. I'm just watching 30 Rock, which is such a brilliant show.
Oh, wow.
And I don't think you can, it's the same argument. She is the Tina Fey of this show. She's the architect. She's the main actor. Just like Tina Fey won for acting and writing, I think that Quinta Brunson deserves to too. So I'm very happy with
She's very, very funny. Jeremy Allen White, once again, expected. I think he'll probably win for season 2 as well. I liked the season 1 performance a little more though. Sarah Snook for Succession, probably my favorite one of the night. I love that show. I love that. My favorite performance on the whole show. Gave a great speech. So I'm just very happy. Shiv finally got honored. Same with Roman Roy. Not my favorite character on the show in the slightest. But great performance.
You don't like him?
Great performance. Roman Roy? No, he's my least favorite of the Roy kids.
Oh, really?
He's an issue. He's a big issue.
Well, he's meant to be.
Watch America Decides. And I think that will. I think
I'm not voting for. I don't want to hang out with him. I don't want to drink him, but he's a great character.
Yeah. He's a great character. Yes, I just mean person, like them as a person. None of them are great. I would think
I was like, where are you guys? I mean, Shiv isn't the best. I mean, I guess I would, more likely
but
be
at
friends
least
with her.
She politically didn't want to destroy the country. That's a good thing.
That's
for
true.
her.
I will give you that, and she does, I think, make the right decision in the end. So you have that.
She comes out
correct, sir.
Yeah.
I'm an optimist. I think there's a way back with that handhold.
I think so. Back. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Stephen Yeun and Ali Wong winning for Beef, both incredible in the show, both very deserved. Supporting actress in comedy, Ayo Edebiri for Debris for The Bear, great in that show, always giving great speeches. It'll be interesting to see what happens with next year's Emmys because she's in lead actress next year, I believe. Up against Jean Smart for Hacks. She's up against Jean Smart though.
She'll win.
That's competition.
Because they don't seem. I feel like they'll do you twice. Look at Jason Sudeikis. Look at Bill Hader. I think it's hard to get 3 now in this age of Emmy voting because I think by the 3rd season we know it's
there's a big gap there too.
I just think that the way shows are constructed now, like the thing with Veep, for example, when Julia Louis-Dreyfus won 6 out of her 7 seasons, only losing the 7th to Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who that was also their final season. So I think it was their way to give it to her. Julia, like, she doesn't get into the presidency until like the end of the 3rd season, beginning of the 4th season. So like there was still new comedic places to take that character. I think that streaming means that you're kind of ending your arcs by the end of season 3, so we kind of know what to expect.
Season 2 seemed like the end to the show, to be honest.
Exactly. So I think Ayo Edebiri will win Best Actress next year or this year, and I think Meryl Streep will win
Maya Erskine for Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I don't know. Next year's Emmys will be interesting.
Meryl. We got Meryl.
Well, she's supporting.
She's
supporting.
That's what I'm saying. Supporting. So I think Meryl. I think it comes down to Meryl versus Hannah Einbinder. Maybe finally getting her chance.
I would love for her to finally be honored. Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
Chapman alum.
Or maybe someone from The Bear. We'll see. Oh yes, this is worth pointing out. Better Call Saul, I believe 0 for 53 at the Emmys. I think the issue with it is kind of they already honored Breaking Bad, so I think they're kind of like just like I don't think House of the Dragon will ever win a bunch of Emmys either because they already honored Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
I just don't think. I think they see him as
because
kind
it's
of similar.
it's
Like,
part
we
of
already
it.
did
It's the
that.
same thing. I know. Listen, and
Yeah.
I feel for you, Better Call Saul fans,
Mhm.
but it's tough. I don't know because like I mean, it's tough because I feel like Bob Odenkirk was wonderful, and he always was wonderful. But I mean, Kieran Culkin was too, and it's a tough thing. It's a tough thing. But yeah, I don't know. I think that the legacy of Breaking Bad hurts Better Call Saul.
Yeah, 53 is a lot though. That is some bad luck. You'd think they'd throw
No,
something at
it never
some
won
point, but-
cinematography. That's what I like. How did it never win?
because
one of
it
the
shows that
creative
they
art?
watch it at least and they probably like it, but they don't like it enough to give it a single win, I guess. So
I
don't
guess
know.
I agree. It was sacrilegious that it never won one.
Mhm.
But
It's got to be a
again, I
record
think
or something.
looking for that among the last night's winners, I think was difficult. The show ended
It's competitive.
almost 2 years ago.
August of 2022. Yeah. We
Yeah,
were talking about Obi-Wan, May of 2022. Jesus. Eben Moss Bachrach, a nice surprise for the Bear. I think it was between him, Goldstein, or Marsden. I think.
Yeah.
I think I went with Marsden in the end, but Bachrach
I
makes sense.
stuck
I
to
mean, it was
that
the Bear
sweep.
sweep. It was the Bear sweep. It makes. I'm sure lots of people went perfect on Gold Derby just because
One person
pretty much won everything. Only one person did.
One person got 100%.
Oh wow! I would have thought more would have. I wonder what tripped everyone else up. I guess most people thought there'd at least be one surprise. Maybe is what people were doing.
I think
But
people
it wasn't
were.
really.
I think directing for a drama series. I think threw people. I think they
Last
all
of
thought
Us.
that was
Yeah,
going to be
I
Last
thought it
of
was
Us.
Last of Us. Yeah, but once again, just Succession sweep. Jennifer Coolidge, great speech.
Her last
Great
speech,
White Lotus season
probably.
3 cast. Yeah, probably her last speech. Did you see the new people they announced today?
Mhm.
Walton Goggins, Amy Lee Wood, great
Patrick
cast for next season.
Schwarzenegger.
Oh yeah, Patrick Schwarzenegger. Yeah, Matthew McFadden for Succession, second Emmy winner, of course.
Good for him.
Niecy Nash Betts, I think, gave best speech of the night in my opinion. I loved her
Yay.
speech. Best part of that show. I'm glad that was the main and only part honored. Paul Walter Hauser, interesting speech, a little bit of a rap haiku or something going on there.
What was he eating? I
He
couldn't
was
tell
chewing
if it was
gum, I think.
gum. It was gum.
I think it was gum. Because
Yeah.
he put it in like right before he got up. It might be like an anxiety thing or something to help him with that.
Maybe.
But yeah, it wasn't. You could definitely tell he was chomping on something. But he gave a speech that stuck in your mind, which
it tells a Grey's Anatomy cast. My wife loves your show. That was funny.
Yeah, that was good. He's funny. He's funny.
Yeah.
Worth mentioning for you, Trevor Noah won Variety Talk
Woo!
Series.
Yay! I was very
Mhm.
happy. Yes, of course. I mean, I'm going to toot my horn. I did intern for this season, so I was very
Mhm.
happy. I was very happy for them. It's a
Anthony is
wonderful
now
office.
an Emmy winner, guys.
Yes, that's true. Yeah,
Mhm.
I get
He's
a
hiding it. It's right
gold-plated
behind him
little
on
thing.
the screen. Yeah.
No, but it was fun for them. I'm very happy. I think that, listen, The Daily Show, it's why I wanted to work there. It's a wonderful
Mhm.
little piece of television history. And it was very happy to see people that I knew on that stage. That was a cool
Yeah,
experience.
that's
So I
cool.
was very
That's
happy.
definitely a cool experience. Yeah.
Yeah, I was very happy for that.
That's funny. I think Sam also knows people who work on that show, so
Really?
maybe interconnected in some
connects?
ways. Yeah. Yeah, and then obviously John Oliver wins the other two. Like Trevor Noah said, they would have won if John Oliver wasn't there, and they finally.
I
did,
mean,
so.
it's arguably the most important show being made today. I really don't. I think we should just give
It's
him
the
an
deserving
honorary
winner.
category and just like,
And then
because
kick
at this
him out.
point,
Yeah.
I don't know, because well, listen. To be fair though, who would win if he wasn't in this category would be SNL. So those two are like,
Mhm.
listen.
Yeah.
Did you see the news that came out today from Lorne Michaels?
I don't think so.
He
What was
said
it?
that I think he said near the top of his successor list would be Tina Fey to inherit the show, which I
Interesting.
thought was really
Oh.
cool and exciting.
They just did a weekend update there. She was great. They're both great at that.
Yes.
They need to do more stuff together. They need to host
Mentioning the
Oscars
number
or
one movie in America, which is Mean Girls, which is why I have my pink
something. Mhm.
and
Yeah,
my lovely little cup over here.
they did mention
That's
that.
it.
That's true. All Mean Girls out.
All
In
Mean Girls
2
out.
hours, you'll be wearing pink on Wednesday.
Oh, of course. My eyes are a little pink right now.
Yeah, it's the hours.
Yeah, I will be starting the Renee Rapp supporting actress campaign.
We'll have to see if that lasts all the way to our personal awards next year, which we haven't even done for this year.
You want to see real quick? I realized because
Yeah.
I loved Mean Girls a lot. It like really hit me where I needed it to. And I was looking back, I was like, if this movie was released last January, it would have stayed in my top 10 until Saltburn, until November 16th.
Oh wow.
It
The
would have
first
stayed
half
in
of
my
last
top
year was
10.
weak.
Yeah, but I just think that's hilarious that Mean Girls would have been. And I don't listen. I thought it
I
would.
still need
I
to
think
see
it's the
it. So
best. It is the best transfer of a Broadway show to the screen since Chicago. That's my little review.
oh, okay.
Read my letterbox. I
I'll
did
have to
more
watch it.
long
I
form
saw a
thought.
clip on TikTok of the girl playing Karen doing a dance break, and it was very good. I liked that.
She was
part.
good. That was a great song. Hey, 16 billion hashtag Mean Girls across. I think it has some record. It's crazy this weekend. Go see the movie.
I think it's doing pretty well. It was originally supposed to be a streaming movie, so they're definitely making more money than they would have beforehand.
It made almost as much money in 4 days that West Side Story Spielberg made in its entire domestic run.
I imagine West Side Story is probably a better movie, but yeah.
I mean, it depends. I mean, because I feel like for me, West Side Story, like one maybe is more important, but I don't know. West Side Story, because the West Side Story remake is like, if you loved West Side Story before, you'll love it now. Like it was very much.
I like the remake more.
Yeah, it just depends on what you like. I think, to me, Mean Girls just felt a little bit more distinct from its original, which is why I would probably put that on more often, and it was more fun. I feel like we don't get movies like that. You know, we get serious movies all the time.
We do. Final thing I think worth mentioning with Emmys, RuPaul I think did, as it says, most Emmy-winning person of color to ever for Drag Race, worth mentioning as well. Also, great speech there as well with reading from the whole like drag queen thing. I forget the exact way that it was said, but it was very funny, very good speech.
Something about it was like truth. The drag queen has truth to power, and anybody trying to stop you from that, is afraid. Don't let the fear control you. It was a nice speech. You got to make sure you have those nice speeches when you win every year. That's why John Oliver had one of the funniest speeches where he's like, I'm going to just list off the football team members until Anthony Anderson's mom cuts me off, which I thought that was a funny bit.
That is my main complaint for last night, though, is I think the energy wasn't. There were moments where the energy came up, like the Jennifer Coolidge speech, the Niecy Nash-Betts speech, some of the reunions. But because we had seen so many of these same people giving speeches like multiple times over like the last week alone, it was kind of like, okay. At one point, there was like no like, so I think huge like
the fact that it was like fine and mundane. If at its worst, that's a good award show. We've seen them fall apart.
I think Anthony Anderson did a good job too. So
and yeah, we mentioned Elton John. EGOTted. He becomes the 19th.
Oh yes, Elton John.
EGOT.
But you're not including Lydia Tarr in that, so it's 20th.
Yeah, well, it's like it gets rescinded. We take it away after the controversy.
Do we?
Maybe. I think so. It's not on Wikipedia, so I think that's what happens.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm a fan of Lydia Tarr personally.
Controversial.
Yeah. Okay, that's it for the Emmys. We've got a few other things to quickly talk about. Let us talk about. Okay, no, there's still stuff that we have to talk about. This is pretty quick though.
It's a big
PGA nominations. It's the same as your everyone's Best Picture nominations now. Let's see if I can list them all without looking at anything. You got American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, Oppenheimer, Holdovers. Oh god, I'm already blanking. Maestro, Zone of Interest. What else is there? You can help me out here if you want.
Trying to do my impression of Willem Dafoe.
Oh, Poor Things. Yes, obviously. Did I say I said Barbie? God, I'm not good at remembering this stuff. Do you have the final two?
I can't do the 10. Listen, it's a 10 we know.
It's the 10 we know.
But
Killers of the Flower Moon.
There you go. There's one. And I'm sure
there's
they're screaming it in the comments. Let us know. But yeah, I know people are afraid now of like, oh my God, is it going to be PGA and they're going to line up? They never line up. PGA doesn't go for Zone of Interest and Anatomy of a Fall and Past Lives. They just don't. And the fact that they did like that, those are Oscar picks. The Oscars, it would be crazy to think that Zone of Interest is a PGA pick and Saltburn is a Academy pick. That just that doesn't compute. No. So yeah, I think it's going to be top 10 at PGA.
It's kind of scary
It's
though,
not
because they
that
never go 10 for
scary.
10. Yeah, but they like never go 10 for 10, and like everyone's gonna have the same 10. But I think kind of we already compared it to the 2019 ceremony year. I think everyone had the same
And we all
predicted
knew the
9
same
there.
9, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
so
and
I
I
guess
think we knew
it's
it was going to be
like that.
9.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I think that it's going to be like that. So yeah, I think PGA, it was interesting. I was very pleased. I think it speaks to zone of
Yeah.
interest. That's why I think it has a strong chance of getting to cinematography and maybe score. Because if the producers are going
Sound.
for it, we know the directors will go for it. If it has directors and producers,
Yeah,
that's a
it's
strong
definitely.
coalition.
Yeah, the actors aren't quite as strong of a voting body since they've added more people as they were in the past.
Mhm,
But even then, I think the actors may like it. I don't know. They're probably the least likely branch to like it,
mhm.
if I were to guess. But
Yeah.
yeah, and then the animated producer guild picks were pretty basic. It's the exact same ones we mentioned, except instead of Nimona, it was Boy and the Heron, which once again shows that they're willing to do international stuff. The first international film to be nominated, international animated film to be nominated in that category at PGA. So they're making some changes there. And then the other guild thing that we missed was DGA, where year 5, where I can do this off the top of my head. Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer, Martin Scorsese for Killers of the Flower Moon, Greta Gerwig for Barbie. She was in it, right? Yeah, she was.
Mm-hmm.
Alexander Payne for Holdovers, and who am I missing? Yorgos Lanthimos for Poor Things.
Yorgo.
Yeah. Yorgo is how it's supposed to be pronounced. I just
Yeah,
think
I
you take
think
out Payne for
yeah, you
sure.
take out Payne. And
I still worry about Gerwig, but yeah.
I know you worry about Gerwig. But
I
Gerwig
think
didn't
you
make it
definitely
in.
take out Payne for Glazer.
Gerwig didn't
Glazer's
make it in
stronger
for
than
Little
Schrader.
Women. So I do think that Gerwig is being looked upon more favorably than the last time.
I just don't know how much Barbie appeals to that branch, but we'll have to see.
But Barbie's gonna, because think about what Barbie is. Like Barbie, like even more than Black Panther, Barbie is a film that's going to get writing. It's going to get acting. It's going to get crafts. It's going to get
Yeah.
music. It's going to get everything. It's going to get picture. How do you not, like, even Dune? Like Dune didn't have the
It didn't
actors.
get acting.
I think that Black Panther didn't have the actors. I think the fact that Barbie has the actors means that Greta Gerwig will get in.
Yeah.
Because what branch would show, like, again, the directors would be the only place that maybe the directing international places. But even so, Barbie didn't do awful on the BAFTA long list, so we know that they like Barbie. It could get in. I'm gonna stick behind Gerwig. I really think that they're gonna.
I'm still gonna have her in there. She's just
who
gonna
really
be
believe
my
in her.
5. She'll be my 5 because
Yeah.
I think she can miss. If she misses, it will be for
like
Trier. I think.
But
That's
look
your
at
top 6.
like All Quiet on the Western Front was this big overperformer last year. Edward Berger doesn't get in because people don't know who he is. I think
That's
you
true.
get in when you're a name. That's why Jonathan Glazer will get in most likely, because he's a name and he's an international filmmaker.
And I think Anatomy might be seen as more of a writing than directing film.
Yeah, and it's also female focused, which I do think hurts you. I mean, look at the type of female films that get in. Catherine Bigelow was the first woman to win the category. And if I found the most masculine directed female director, I would point to Catherine Bigelow. So I think that has something to do with it. Barbie being a big visual masterpiece and the craft, it's a very much a Hollywood picture. I think that helps Gerwig over somebody like Justine Triet, especially because we're already going for Yorgo and we're already going for Jonathan.
Glazer.
And Nolan to an extent. We're going for these very meticulously crafted films. We need some people that are more going to appeal to everybody. Like are going to be the fun picks. You're not going to be like the picks that you watch in film school.
What fun picks do the directors do though? They don't do fun picks. The overall Academy does.
Yeah, I know, but I still, I don't know. I have faith. I mean, Todd Phillips, again, you mentioned. I think you look at somebody like Ruben Östlund versus Edward Berger. Like Edward Berger seems like the more like directorial movie. No, they went for the movie where everybody's thrown up on each other in the big boat, and that's a comedy. I think directors do have a sense of humor, just barely.
Yeah, just a little, it's also worth mentioning. Payne is a branch fave, but I think it's just too competitive for him to get in this year. I think they want to honor pretty much every other aspect of that film. I think he ranks last out of every aspect to honor. The screenplay,
I don't think it's
all the
flashy
actors,
enough.
all of that. No, yeah, especially this year.
But he could. You never, if holdovers is as big as we think it is, it kind of makes sense for him to be in there. Maybe, maybe, maybe he's in instead of Gerwig. Maybe he's in instead of Glazer. You never know. He could.
Maybe. It's kind of like Peter Farrelly didn't get in for Green Book, did he? No. He
No,
didn't,
but
so.
Peter Farrelly didn't get in for Green Book because he made Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, no, that's true. Alexander Payne is definitely much more respected amongst the directors. And I do worry about Barbie, but we'll have to see. We'll have to look out for our final nominations coming soon, because the nominations are in a week. So I'd imagine you'll probably have them before the weekend or around the weekend. A lot to discuss there. A lot to discuss. So we'll have to see. Is there anything else that happened this week that you would like to talk about? Oscar voting ended today.
Yes, Oscar voting ended today. Of course, we reacted to SAG separately, so you can go to our reaction for that. If it was a sad day for Jack, it was a expected day for Anthony. But yeah, I think, listen, we're in the final crunch. There are certain things that are seeming to be locked up. There are certain things that are up in the air. I think that it seems as if we kind of know where everything is going, which means that we really don't, because that's just how it always is. So I'm looking forward to being surprised. Maybe it's Origin, maybe it's Saltburn, maybe it's the lack of Barbie everywhere. Maybe it's not as big as we think it is. I'm still going to believe that it's up there. I think it's going to be in the same echelon of Killers and Oppenheimer. I think even Poor Things could do very well. So
I think Poor Things could underperform.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Honestly, it is exciting.
I mean, if it gets too acting, directing, picture, screenplay, and the crafts, I mean, that's 7 already. Throw in score, that's 8. I mean, those all.
I just have Poor Things missing editing right now. Is what I
don't know if I have it in editing. But still, 8 nominees. 8 nominees in a year where everybody else has like 11 or 12 is not that bad.
It's still impressive. Yeah, for sure. For sure. I realized I forgot during our BAFTA segment to make this our background. So
it looks like we're about to do a Zoom production of Les Miserables.
It does. Yeah, it's a little war torn, but we can stick
Napoleon
with this little golden background. But yeah, final thing, everyone. Charles Melton is getting nominated. We'll talk about it in our final predictions. He's absolutely being nominated, guys. I'm not delusional at all. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this week. We talked about, I think, everything. Coming up, obviously, we'll have our final Oscar predictions within the next few days. We'll have, I think the BAFTA nominations are on Thursday, so I imagine we'd do it soon after that once we've gotten everything. We'll talk about the BAFTA noms and all that stuff. I think that's pretty much most of it for right now. And then you'll also see end of January, early February range, we will be doing a long live stream where we will be joined by some friends doing our own personal nominations, and we'll have to have some debating and all that fun stuff. So that'll be fun. I'm sure we'll announce that plenty in advance for you all to know when it is and who is joining. And yes, BAFTA noms are 7 a.m. EST, early in the morning. So yeah, there's that. But yeah. Anything else, Anthony, before we go? Before we depart?
I think that's it.
I think we covered it. I think we covered it all. So yeah, we'll probably see a lot of upcoming videos here. So stay tuned. It'll be a little bit of maybe less to do after the nominations, but lots leading up to it. So yeah, thank you all for watching. Yeah, I know, very early. And we'll see you in whatever video comes next, probably BAFTA nominations related. So see you, everyone.
Bye-bye.